Hey guys, Pat Ryerke here, also known as the Patriarchy, kicking social justice ass and all kinds of ass well into 2017 and the beyond. Welcome to a Patriarchy livestream episode. Today we are looking at this new technology that was sent to me by Google, this new advanced technology. The women missing from the silver screen and the technology used to find them. So basically, Gina Davis of The Fly fame and Cutthroat Island, she was, married to Jeff Goldblum and Rennie Harlan, and acts like a complete pretty much a crazy lady today. I was a Gina Davis fan as a kid, obviously, and a teenager. I like her work, but yeah, every interview I've seen with her and stuff she's been doing the last year or two has just been kind of crazy. But that's whatever. But basically, this is to show the gender inequality of films, that men are predominantly featured much more in movies. And the argument that this makes is that girls need more heroes and representatives in movies so they can go do the jobs. Basically, it's saying the reason that women don't do any of the big jobs as much as men, and this would be like tech fields and stuff like that, computer, engineering, stuff like that. They're saying it's because they don't have enough heroes in movies that to impact them and stuff like that. Now, one, I think that point's absolute bullshit, because I don't think most men who go do those jobs or are inspired to do those jobs do so because they saw a movie when they were a kid. I'm not saying that some aren't that way, but I don't think the majority of people who decide to be a scientist or something like that do so because they saw it in a movie a few times. Also, I love their first one's Hidden Figures. This is a movie about NASA back in the 60s, so of course it's going to have predominantly men working there at NASA, and it's like, oh look, there's a female, and there's the male. So basically the technology looks at males and females and separates them in the movie to give you percentages about how much they're in there. Okay. So I'm going to look at this because I looked at this earlier and I find it rather faulty in a lot of ways, but maybe I'm wrong. Hello, good evening. Nice that welcome to the live stream, guys. Thank you for joining us. Anyway, I'm going to use some box office numbers here, try to not debunk, but at least show that this isn't exactly contextually as black and white as they're trying to make it. New research offers hard data on gender disparities in film. How might the characters we see on screen affect the roles we play in society? When they were 8 and 10, Kimberly and Rebecca Jung had to choose who to send to space. The spacecraft the two constructed in their garage only had a payload big enough for one action figure. The sisters decided on Rey, the heroine of the movie Star Wars: The Force Awakens. I'm sorry that you decided on the most bland, uninteresting lead in a recent giant blockbuster, unless you wanted to send her up into space so you didn't have to see her in the sequel. With Rey in the captain's seat, the young sister's spaceship lifted off. It was powered by a helium-filled balloon and was outfitted with solar panels, GPS, video cameras, and sensors to capture data and relay it back to Earth in real time. Their hope reached the stratosphere at roughly 40,000 feet. Instead, they soared even higher to 100,000 feet. Higher and higher, baby. They had reached beyond their dreams to the very edge of space. Rey may be a fictional character, a poorly written one, but to Rebecca and Kimberly, she is a very real role model. We know that sometimes people have said things like technology and science were only for boys, Kimberly says, but knowing that there are people who are role models for us makes us feel good about our interests and what we like, we would do. What did Rey use any technology or build a rocket to send into space? They didn't make Rey that tech savvy. She showed some mechanic abilities and she had the Force, but you were inspired to build this because of Rey being a Jedi? That makes no sense. Rey doesn't give up, ever. Yay! Role models on screen make a difference. Sounds like a roleplay interview, and the dog found, the dog food runs out. What do you do? Star Wars: The Force Awakens is not only emboldening girls to embark... Star Wars: The Feminist Awakens. Girls to embark on new adventures. The sports of archery became suddenly popular with girls in 2012, coinciding with two movies starring female heroines as archers, The Hunger Games and Brave. In a study that examined this correlation, 7 out of 10 girls said they'd taken up the sport because they were inspired by either Katniss or Merida. Well, who gives a fuck if girls took up archery, quite honestly? That's stupid. Also, Hunger Games wasn't popular because it had a female lead. Let me make a distinction. That was an IP. A lot of these movies that they're going to bring up on this that did well were IPs. Like, they bring up Star Wars. Star Wars didn't make $2 billion worldwide, and Rogue One did make $1 billion because it had female fucking leads. It made that because it was called Star Wars. Nobody gave a fuck who was in the new Star Wars. You could have cast anyone in the lead role. Boy, girl, black, Hispanic, nobody would have given a shit. The property sold the movie. Nobody would have given a fuck. Same thing with Rogue One. They're like, look how huge the numbers are on Rogue One. Nobody cared who was in that movie. They went to go see Darth Vader and the Death Star plans and all that shit. Are you kidding me? That's so obvious. And Hunger Games. Hunger Games made money. Because it was a famous book franchise, and Jennifer Lawrence was in it playing the lead character, just like Harry Potter is the biggest book franchise of all time, and the lead character was a guy named Harry Potter, and those movies did well because people loved Harry Potter. It didn't matter that Harry was a guy. It was irrelevant. So Katniss influencing these many girls, one of my early issues with this, with their premise, is the idea that movies do well with females or males, depending. It's not the property itself. It didn't matter that the archery was featured in Hunger Games and that it was a woman. That was part of the story, and the movie did well because of that. If it was some no-name property and it was made by a nobody and nobody had heard of it before, that movie probably wouldn't have done that well. And, that's what nobody wants to look at with these things. They're not looking at original films. They're looking at major IP films that have female leads. They say, look, they're doing well. Like, yeah, it's a franchise. Of course, Twilight did really, really well with women and did well as movies. They're shitty films, and they had a shitty female lead. Bella's one of the worst. 50 Shades of Grey, 50 Shades Darker. Predominantly a female audience. Which once again shows the interests, different interests between men and women, because men are not going to see 50 Shades of Grey or 50 Shades Darker in the numbers that women are. They're not buying the books. And same thing with Twilight. It's not even close. But that's insignificant to them because they're just going off numbers. They're like, well, hey, more men are on screen than women in this scene, so thus there's inequality. It's like, so because 5 guys are on screen in this scene, like, let's look at the new Alien movie, Alien Covenant, right? 2 female characters from what I can gather, right? And then the rest is a male crew. But the lead character in the movie, and you could argue Michael Fassbender's probably like the co-lead, is a female. It's Catherine Waterston. The lead is basically a woman. Now, the idea here is that, yeah, they probably wouldn't have that many women on the crew with men. It probably would be mostly men. Just based off interests and the kind of job it is. It probably would be predominantly men. Just like the original Alien was mostly men except for Ripley and another woman. That's not a bad thing. In fact, it makes it more interesting, and then having the female lead comes off great because you're surrounded by these guys. That's a movie that's recently. It's like, okay, you're ignoring that she's the lead in that movie because you're just looking at how many people have the screen time. Well, of course men are going to have more screen time because there's more men on screen, but she's the lead. So she's the focal point of the movie and the story and the driving force. Anyone read the Harriet Potter series? Harriet Potter. I like Rogue One, actually. I think Force Awakens is kind of crappy, but I actually thought Rogue One was a pretty decent movie. I especially like the ending of Rogue One, the last half hour. The characters we see on screen play a significant part in determining the roles we occupy off-screen. In a recent study, only 15% of K-12 students remember seeing women performing computer science tasks most of the time on film or TV. I can't think of many guys I've seen computer science tasks most of the time. With The Social Network, I guess? And that certainly didn't make me want to go do it. It looked fucking boring as shit. This is reflected in real life where women make up only 17% of computer science majors. Oh yeah, that's because of movies. Yeah, because if women saw them in movies all the time, women would be computer science majors. I don't believe that at all. A steady decline from a peak in 37% in 1984. Were there more women dealing with technology in 1984? What, Princess Leia and Ripley, I guess? So they were saying more women got into computer. Also, computer science is a much bigger field than it was in 1984. 1984, are we eliminating context? It's 2017. Way different field than it was in 1984. What did a fucking computer have back then? Like 30 megabytes? A fucking computer, if you had one? Jesus Christ. Some dude rewrote the Potters for real, yo. Explore the gender roles. I gotta read that. Awesome. Anyway, once again, I don't follow the logic here. This all seems very skewed to me to try to present a narrative. Because when I looked at this stuff, they're like, oh, it declined from 1984. You can't compare 1984 to today. It just isn't the same thing. And I don't think that really means anything if women aren't going into the computer science industry as much. I think they're just choosing to do that. And I don't think films and television is gonna change that. I don't think people ever really get. I mean, war games, I guess. War games influenced a bunch of people to get into computers. The Matthew Broderick movie. They don't really make computer movies and TV shows that much. And it's boring to watch people on a computer screen most of the time. It's not that entertaining. The movie The Fifth Estate's fucking boring as shit. There are many reasons for this decline, but strong female representation in programming, coding, and engineering roles on the big screen can help everyone envision women filling these roles in real life. This is an issue Google's computer science and media team has been focused on for years, working with creators and producers to improve the portrayal of these fields in TVs and movies. Percentage of women majors by field, 45%, 35%, 15%. Once again, 1984 is irrelevant to this. That's completely contextually makes no sense. Why are you talking about this time era? Men grew up differently in this generation with technology than people did in the 80s, so there's going to be definitely a skewed thing with video games. I mean, this is even before the huge console boom in the mid-80s. So you're eliminating all these young guys who grew up with technology and were focused on it more than a lot of women were and are going into computer science as a field. I mean, we're talking about 1984. What the fuck? That's totally different. It's just not the same thing. I don't even know what they're talking about. I'm a woman and I never watched a movie because of the lead gender. Nobody does. No, seriously, almost nobody watches movies because the lead character's male or female. Nobody gives a fuck. They care if the movie's good or bad. That's most people. For the majority of reasons that you love or dislike a movie, it's usually because of writing or tone or filmmaking or something. It almost has nothing to do with gender, unless the movie's predominantly about that. Like Glengarry Glen Ross is about men, and men have to be in it for it to really work. But that doesn't mean that, or like Reservoir Dogs, that makes sense with men because it's a man's film. But there's nothing wrong with that. And just think, most directors and writers are men, and they go into that field more, and they take more risk and go into the creative arts like that a lot more. They do, and so they write movies for men because that's their perspective. I find a lot of female characters poorly written in movies and TV shows because men don't seem to know how to write them that well. And I just I like a lot of female directors, Catherine Bigelow, Julie Taymor, and stuff. But it's just they don't go into that field as much. You can even look it up. It has nothing to do with movies. Movies hardly show. I mean, yeah, they mostly show directors as male and stuff, but that's because they are predominantly male. But this is like the stand-up comedy argument. Women just aren't as interested in going into comedy as men are. Men tell jokes more. Men like humor more. Not everyone gets to play the hero. Oscar-winning actor Gina Davis noticed that the films her daughter watched lacked female characters. Even the cartoon animals were overwhelmingly male. Who gives a shit? Zootopia was like the biggest animated film last year. Lead was a female bunny. Finding Dory. Lead was a female. There's two right off the top of my head that were the two biggest animated films last year. Female leads. Not sure, were there more men in the movie than women? That's okay, but you're ignoring that the lead characters were women. So it's not like they weren't getting represented well. Moana? Moana's about a girl. She's the lead. Moana's like the main. She's in most of the movie. She's on the fucking ocean. It's Life of Pi with Moana. She wondered if unconscious bias towards women meant people accepted female characters having fewer lines and less screen time than men. No, here's an example. Arnold Schwarzenegger doesn't have a lot of lines in a lot of his movies, a lot of screen time, because he has a physical presence and charisma as an actor, so you want to see him on screen. But he actually doesn't say a lot in Terminator 1 and 2, but he doesn't need to. It doesn't matter. That's not the impact he's leaving on you in the film. His presence is leaving the impact, and the story is doing the work. The dialogue, it's not a dialogue-driven movie. Men are in dialogue-driven movies more a lot of the time. Like I said, Reservoir Dogs is a great example. A lot of dialogue. So you're going to get that line in screen time, and it's all in one location. I think they're skewing that because they're not looking at the art films like that. There's these art films. Like, look at Saw. It's two guys in a room for most of the movie, right? So if you were going to do the time on that, you'd go, well, this is a movie with two guys in a room for an hour. Well, yeah, of course the numbers are going to seem fucked up with that. But you can't go through all these movies and look for a bias. Because you have to look at every movie individually, and there's no way the machine's going to do that. So it's just to say, hey, look at the sexism in film. Anyway, so she founded the Gina Davis Institute on Gender and Media in 2007 and started to collect data on movies. Well, that's nice of you, Gina. Data helps us understand what it is we need to encourage creators to do. Small things can have a huge impact. Using the technology to identify gender bias. Enter machine learning, an emerging technology that makes it possible to understand huge amounts of complex data. With support from Google.org, the Gina Davis Institute on Gender in Media teamed up with Google machine learning engineer Hartwig Adam and USC's Vertibi School of Engineering, Vertibi or Vertibi, I think, Dr. Shri Naranan, the Nikki and C.L. Max, Nikki's chair in engineering, and his cell laboratory to develop software that accurately measures how often we see and hear women on screen. This sounds like The Fly. It's making me think of Gina Davis and Jeff Goldblum in The Fly. That measures how often we see and hear women on screen. But here's the thing, just seeing and hearing them is one thing. That doesn't really change the role they play in the movie. Rey doesn't have a lot of dialogue in Force Awakens, actually, but she's the lead character. Even Hannibal Lecter, he's only in 17 minutes of Silence of the Lambs, but he leaves a fucking impact because of how the movie's directed. It's how the director executes the film that leaves impact on you, not screen time. Screen time's irrelevant. The Joker's only in like 20 minutes of Dark Knight, and he stands out in the whole fucking movie. It's because of Christopher Nolan. In fact, Rachel probably has as much screen time as the Joker around there, but you remember him more because he's more interesting. Media arts are an amazing source of information that can provide insight into who we are as a society. Oh my god. Movies reflect society. You mean all these generic blockbusters that are boring and how crappy Hollywood is supposed to reflect something to me? I get nothing. I've seen few films in the last few years that really affected me in that way. Like Her did, maybe District 9 when I first saw it. I mean, there's not really that many movies that I think actually have a very deep commentary about society. I think it's pretty shallow. I think people overrate the power of modern cinema because a lot of filmmakers just aren't that challenging or interesting, and studios don't want to make movies like that. I mean, even films I loved from last year that I loved, like La La Land and Manchester by the Sea, they weren't very challenging or new. They were just good movies. I'd seen everything in them before. We need to engage with people in different fields and work together on addressing specific problems using machine intelligence. Dun 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 dun. The GDIQ and how it works. Dubbed the Gina Davis Inclusion quote GDIQ. They named it after Gina. It can identify a character's gender, but it knew to a fraction of a second how long each actor spoke and was on screen. This was revolutionary, says Davis. And GDI works fast. What once took months to measure can now be quantified in real time. So this is like the Mr. Skins technology, but for women on screen. Can we get this for nudity in movies? This would be a lot more useful in that regard. GDIQ uses machine learning to recognize patterns the casual movie viewer might overlook. To do this, the engineers didn't provide the computer with a template or a set of handcrafted rules. Instead, the machines were programmed to learn from examples that were annotated with the correct answer. This automated process ensures that the technology improves its understanding over time. The tool learned to detect different characters on screen, determine their gender, and calculate how often and how long they spoke in relation to one another. The team used the software to analyze the 100 highest-grossing U.S. domestic live-action films according to the numbers from the years 2014, 2015, and 2016. This is in the era of IP franchise films, so let's remember this. This isn't looking through all the history of cinema. So what does a computer see when it watches a movie? Men are seen and heard nearly twice as often as women. Once again, who gives a shit? I mean, I hate to be that way. Who cares? Stupid feminists say Tarantino is sexist. Yeah. Rey was a Mary Sue. Rey does suck as a character. She's an awful character. Yeah, there's really no... Okay, so let's keep going down this path. Women are seen on screen more than men only in one film genre, horror. Let me explain this. Women are easier to see in that role because women are naturally, due to science, this is a fact, weaker than men, and more vulnerable to get raped or attacked. If the whole feminist argument is, oh, women are victims of getting raped and murdered and attacked by men all the time, okay, I'll agree with you on that. Let's take that premise. That's why horror works. It's easier for us to see a woman in danger than it is a man. We can accept that situation a lot better. So, of course, naturally, women are going to be in horror more. That makes logical sense. This is why men are featured in action films more, because you can buy a man like Sylvester Stallone or Arnold Schwarzenegger kicking a bunch of people's asses and being a badass Green Beret than you could seeing Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow doing retarded backflips that she can't do and kicking a bunch of robot ass that she couldn't do. It looks stupid. I mean, am I the only one who feels that way? It's pretty fucking obvious. When you watch an action movie and some 140-pound woman is kicking a... Did anyone watch Season 2 of Daredevil? Elektra's taking on all these ninjas and the chick weighs 120 pounds? It's like physics says you can't do this. You're punching like 200-pound guys and flipping them in the air. There's no fucking way you could... It looks stupid. You just can't buy it. You can't buy it as well. I don't mind if you get a buff fit woman. Like that movie Haywire. It had that MMA chick, Gina Carrero or whatever. She was going to play Wonder Woman. That chick looks like she could kick fucking ass. In that movie, she beats up like a whole SWAT team, and it's totally believable. She kills Michael Fassbender. She kicks Magneto's ass. And it's like, fuck yeah, you could kick Magneto's ass. You're a big fucking woman. And she's still sexy and has a nice body, and looks good. Let me see if I can get a picture of this chick. You guys all know her. She was in she should have played Wonder Woman. But this movie came out and bombed, and I really liked it. It was a Steven Soderbergh film from 2010, Haywire. It got good reviews, but it just bombed. But yeah, check it out. This chick, she played like this badass spy, kicked men's asses. Got a pretty face, still kind of feminine in her body type, but she's masculine. She's a big chick. Look at her there. She looks like a badass. I mean, I wouldn't fuck with this chick. This chick could kick my ass. No, and she does real work. She does real stunt work. She does like all of her own stuff. She kicks Channing Tatum's ass. And I guarantee you in real life she could have kicked all these men's asses. It's good casting. Even here in this picture, look, she's standing by all these guys. She could kick any of these guys' asses. No question. She's the most dominant person in this lineup. And she's still pretty fucking hot. I mean, she didn't lose sex appeal, despite this, because she was well cast. Yeah, the movie made it work. The movie made it work. It doesn't matter. Like Jennifer Lawrence, she had a nice athletic body in the Hunger Games. Now look at Scarlett Johansson here. That doesn't look like a chick, even though I love her body. That doesn't look like a chick that could take on a hallway of 20 dudes. I laugh my ass off looking at that. It's not possible to me at all. However, I can buy this chick being able to kick a bunch of ass. I can buy this. I can buy that this chick can kick ass. She looks like someone who can do it. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. Shape-shifting doesn't seem physically possible either. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like a lot of these. Oh, she could definitely kick a lot of men's asses in these movies. Don't get me wrong. If you think Ewan McGregor could take on Gina Carano, I don't. Now she couldn't take on male MMA fighters, but I don't think that Ewan McGregor or Michael Fassbender could take her in a fight. I would bet money on that. I don't think Ewan McGregor could fight her at all. I'm pretty sure with judo she would get them on the ground and have them done immediately. Now, if she was fighting a trained fighter, no, I don't think she could beat him. But that's what makes the movie work, is they cast men like Michael Fassbender, and you can buy her physically beating him in a movie scene. That's why it works. You can take Michael Fassbender getting his ass kicked by this woman, because he's not a big enough guy to make it seem impossible. But let's get back. I'm going on a tangent here. I'm just a fan of hers, and I wanted her to play Wonder Woman. And now they have a chick playing Wonder Woman that doesn't look big enough. She doesn't look fit enough to be doing the shit. And don't get me wrong, she doesn't look like an Amazon. It's like she doesn't look like an Amazon. They're supposed to be big, tall, giant women. She should be a tall, big, thick woman. That's how Wonder Woman's drawn, with like thick-ass legs and stuff. I don't want Wonder Woman to be like skinny fit. I want Wonder Woman to be fucking huge. Is she a yeah, she's an MMA fighter. She was an MMA fighter. She was like, you know, kind of big before Ronda Rousey from what I remember, but yeah, she's a trained fighter. Did all of her own stunts, did all of her own fight. I mean, she does judo, all the kinds of groundwork, you know, real fighting stuff, groundwork to get someone in holds and stuff. She does it throughout. I highly recommend Haywire. Very good action film. It doesn't even cut during the action scenes. The director just holds the shots and lets the action play out without cutting. It's kind of John Wick ish, but less stylish. He just lets the scenes play out in real time, and you watch the choreography do the work. And yeah, she should have been Wonder Woman. I stand by that. Romance, that 45%, that's close enough, it's irrelevant. Comedy, 40%. Easy. Men are predominantly comedians and stand-up. Men are predominantly in comedy. They prefer comedy. They're in comedy. I mean, do I need to bring up Ghostbusters, so that was a bomb? And a lot of that had to do with you guys pushing the female thing. Yeah, big comedies that were hits like Bad Moms was a huge hit. That was a huge hit because of the premise, not because of the women in it. Like Mila Kunis a star, but it's because people wanted to go see these moms be pieces of shit. Men and women wanted to go see that movie. Sci-fi, once again, predominantly a male genre. They like reading sci-fi literature. They see sci-fi. They read comic books. Drama, that one I don't quite get. That one seems weird. But I don't know. Action, we already explained. Biography, most historical figures were men. That were in the past that were significant. A lot of them were men. So most biographical films are going to be about men. Crime predominantly being men, I don't get quite either. That one's a little off. But I just don't think there's much of these genres out right now. I mean, how many romance and crime films did you see last year? Because I hardly saw any. But I mean, if any at all. There needs to be more chick flicks. Yeah, why don't they make more romantic films? That would be nice. You want Jennifer Lawrence wasting her time doing X-Men movies? I actually quite loved X-Men First Class and X-Men Days of Future Past, so I actually think it was great Jennifer Lawrence was in those movies, personally. I thought those were two of the best movies she was in, actually. I loved Days of Future Past. I thought that was a terrific film. It was like watching Terminator 2, but with time travel. I mean, but with X-Men. It was like watching Terminator, but with X-Men. Not time, and it was a really good movie. Fast Nito's terrific. Women are underrepresented in all ratings categories, including in the 100 highest-grossing films of the past 3 years. Who cares? I hate to be this way again, I just don't care. Okay, let's look at the box office here, right? Let's look at movies that have come out this year. This is the highest grossing films worldwide this year, not just domestic. Beauty and the Beast, female lead Emma Watson. Fate of the Furious, male leads but female cast members. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, predominantly males but a couple females in it. Logan, co-female lead with Hugh Jackman. Kong Skull Island, Brie Larson. Boss Baby, animated. 50 Shades Darker, female male lead. Your Name, female male lead. Return to Xander Cage, predominantly a male film. Great Wall, predominantly a male film. Resident Evil, female lead. Lego Batman movie, mostly a male film with Rosario Dawson. Split, nothing but females except for James McAvoy. So there's a lot of women in that. Some Asian films, Get Out, white woman with a black guy. Dog's Purpose, predominantly male film. Smurfs, I don't really count that. Ghost in the Shell, female lead, was a bomb. John Wick Chapter 2, predominantly male film. Power Rangers has men and women. And Rings, women. Underworld, women. Life had Jake Gyllenhaal and Ryan Reynolds in it. And we keep going down. Yeah. So what are they getting at here? These are the movies that have come out so far this year. And as far as I can see, the highest grossing one has a woman in it. And nobody seems to care. I don't like that movie. So what's the issue here? Now, if you're going to go through and cherry pick minutes and lines of dialogue to try to make it seem like they're underrepresented, that's fine. But you're ignoring the lead, and the highest grossing film of the year is a woman. And you know why that film did well? Had nothing to do with it being a woman. It's Belle and a property. This movie did well. This movie's making so much fucking money because people love that original 91 film so much that they went to go see a live-action adaptation of it. Pretty fucking simple. It had really little to do with Emma Watson. You could have cast Anna Kendrick, Emma Stone. Anyone could have played Belle, and this movie would have made $1.2 billion. Here's the proof. Dan Stevens, who I love, is in this movie as the Beast. He's pretty much unknown to everyone. He was in a great film, The Guest. He's on Legion right now. People don't know this guy, mainstream audiences. But it didn't matter, because he's playing the Beast, so nobody gives a fuck. Okay, but let's look at films yearly, right? We're going to look at the box office here. To show you how their numbers are skewed as fuck, because they try to say here that when women are leads in films, the films make more money. But I'm going to prove that wrong because they're basing this off films from the last few years, which would include Star Wars, which in no way those made money or not because of the women. It doesn't matter. Okay. So, women are barely seen in Academy Award-winning films. Women made up 32% of screen time in award-winning films. Women made up 20% of speaking time in award-winning films. Okay, well, that's probably a fault in the Academy then, isn't it? Who they nominate when you say that? I don't know. Well, the Academy's always evil to these guys. How can this technology change things? The Gina Davis Institute on Gender and Media unveiled preliminary GDIQ findings to producers, executives, screenwriters, and actors last year. The numbers were sobering reminders of the power of unconscious bias. Over the past decade, we've developed meaningful relationships with many motion picture studios who generally want to improve gender balance in their movies. Female-led box office films do better, earning 16% more than male-led films. Okay, I'm about to debunk this because this is bullshit. Average earning for female-led films, 89. Average led for male films, 75 million. Right? This is reflected in films like Hidden Figures, which recently became the top-grossing Best Picture Academy Award nominated of the year, showing that movies centered around women resonate with audiences. I'm about to prove that statement wrong. They're talking domestically, right? Domestically. That was the highest-grossing Best Picture film. That film made $169 million at the domestic box office and $230 million worldwide on a $25 million budget. Okay, so their argument... Now, I think that film did well because of the story being about NASA and a lot of things and the time it came out. I think, and having big-name actresses like Olivia Spencer, I think's her name, from The Help and stuff. But the actual highest-grossing Best Picture nominee was La La Land, which on a $30 million budget made $150 million domestic, which was only a little bit under Hidden Figures, and $443 million worldwide. It made a shitload more money. It made double what Hidden Figures made worldwide. Male, female lead. So right there, you could just see how skewed their numbers are, because they're trying to tell you, oh look, female movies do better, but they're being very selective with how they present the numbers. So right there, they're just trying to show you. Really, if you look on averages from last year, the female films weren't doing better. The property films were. Moana, that was an end, Finding Dory, and Rogue One. Rogue One made $532 million domestic. That had not one thing to do with it having a female lead. Nobody gave a fuck about Jin or whatever in the movie. They went to go see the Death Star movie. Finding Dory was a sequel to one of the most famous animated films ever. And the list goes on that way. Look, Jungle Book made a bunch of money. IP, Deadpool, IP. Zootopia is one of the only original films on there, and it had a female lead. But people love that movie. It had nothing to do with that. Batman v Superman, Suicide Squad, Sing, Moana, Fantastic Beasts. Where are the female-led films that were doing better? I'm not seeing them. What, Bad Moms? Arrival? Where were the female-led films that are doing better here? I don't see it. All I'm seeing is the highest-grossing films of the year were predominantly male, worldwide and domestically, and Star Wars Rogue One just skews the whole fucking number because it has a female lead in it, and it was a Star Wars movie, just like Force Awakens. My exact location is top secret. Fucking Star Wars, let it die. I can't believe people are still obsessed with it. Marvel shows how much you can do so much better, and yet people are fans of both. Yeah, you could argue Moana and Frozen, though. Yeah, but did Frozen make money because it had female leads, or did it make money because of having a hit soundtrack written by Robert Lopez, who worked on Avenue Q and the Book of Mormon? Maybe that was a big reason Frozen did well, because it was the first Disney musical in a long time and traditional, and went back to the princess thing. I mean, maybe because it was just a remake of Wicked, an already very popular play, and it pretty much stole its plot entirely from that story. I mean, that's my thing. And even Moana. Moana did well because... And also, I'd say the character that stole Moana is The Rock's character, who's a male. I think he's the standout character, and everyone's favorite is him. I mean, he's the one everyone loves. But Moana's a great film. Moana's just a great film. Great animation, great story, great music. Just a great movie. Also, they built this movie's hype around the music done by the guy from Hamilton. They sold a lot of this movie off the Hamilton guy's music, who's a guy. I mean, that's the context they eliminate in this thing with this technology. Is they're ignoring all those factors of why movies make money. They make movies because of marketing and franchises and all sorts of things. I don't think this problem ever existed. I mean, there are plenty of movies with female... No, there was probably more female leads in the 40s and 50s when you go back than there is today. And there was less sexuality. The dialogue was sexual. The women were more interesting on point control. I mean, I love going back and watching 40s, 50s films. The women are just better. They're better written and they act better. They act like women. And they put men in their fucking place. They're confident. They know they're women and they're proud of it. Today they try to make the women in movies men. They want the women in the movies today to be guys. And it's not as cool. They forgot what made women women in movies and what makes them... So, like, Katniss could just be a dude. There's nothing about her that really makes her that female except for this love triangle bullshit. That's what's uninteresting. It's like, no, what... There's certain things about women that are interesting to explore in cinema. Yeah, tons of great movies. Ripley, of course. Yeah. Yeah, all I think with this logic is they skewed the numbers because they looked at movies and said, "Oh, look, these movies made money that had female leads," but they ignored worldwide box office, they ignored marketing, they ignored what the films were about. People just didn't go see these movies because they had female or male leads. Nobody saw La La Land because of the leads necessarily. They saw it because it got great reviews and the buzz and people were in hype about it. I mean, do you not know how movies work? Fate of the Furious was made $1.2 billion worldwide, this goddamn movie. It's got The Rock, it's got Michelle Rodriguez, it's got Helen Mirren, Vin Diesel, it's got Tyrese Gibson, it's got Charlize Theron, it's got all kinds of different actors. This is a very diverse film, and it's making a shitload of money worldwide. I don't quite get the argument here, but it's still sold on the male leads. The female leads could not open this film to this kind of money. You name me a single woman that could open a film like this, a car race movie worldwide, to the numbers that Vin Diesel and The Rock could. There isn't one. There isn't a single woman that could open a movie like this, like The Rock could. It's no fucking way. They are cherry-picking evidence. This is the classic Gina Davis. Gina Davis's... How long has this stream been going on? Damn, 36 minutes. Fuck. Okay, well, I was planning on this being only like 20 minutes. But yeah, that Hidden Figures thing is just bullshit. Okay, I just showed you there. And they ignore so many things. Also, Arrival would have been a better argument with Amy Adams, because that was an original sci-fi film with the female lead that made $100 million domestic and about $200 million worldwide. That would have been a better film to point out, in my opinion. Instead of Hidden Figures. But of course, Hidden Figures get... Isn't it funny Hidden Figures got praised for being all diverse and empowering, and none of the feminists or anyone praised Arrival for having a really strong, smart female lead who actually came off like a professional linguist? You actually bought her in that role. It's like, fuck Amy Adams. She didn't even get an Oscar nom. Actor Carrie Bish, star of *Halt and Catching Fire*, believes that diversity in film is mutually beneficial for studios and audiences. Why? Why is it beneficial? What the GDIQ does is explains how much bigger an audience your story could have if you reach out to different groups of people. I think it's an opportunity. Nobody saw Fate of the Furious or Star Wars because of the leads or anything. It was predominantly because people wanted to see the cars and people wanted to see the spaceships and lightsabers and Jedis. I mean, that's what it... This is Hollywood today. And that's... So where do we go from here? A survey that followed a presentation of GDIQ findings found that 68% of filmmakers reconfigured 2 or more of their projects after hearing the numbers, and 41% stated that it had impacted 4 or more of their movies. We'll see major improvement in both the number and the quality of female characters in the next 5 to 10 years. Hey, I'm all for that if they're good characters. This could end up being like Marvel, where you just force female characters down our throats that aren't interesting. I want interesting female characters. I want, like, orphan black female characters. I want, like, the Americans female characters. I want, like, Battlestar Galactica, Starbuck. Oh, God, what? Fuck, she's one of my favorite characters ever. What's the chick from Battlestar Galactica? Somebody in the chat tell me. Starbuck? She was a male in the original series, and then they made her a girl in the remake of Battlestar Galactica. Damn it, who was she? Hold on, let me look this up. Starbuck, yeah. It was Starbuck. Okay, originally this character was a male in the 70s Battlestar Galactica, which in my mind is kind of an outdated 70s Star Wars ripoff. I still enjoy it. Starbuck in the 2000 show? Fucking badass. She smokes cigars. She loves to fuck. She's the best pilot in the Battlestar. She's awesome. She's played by a badass actress who is my pick to play Samus Aran if they ever make a Metroid movie. This chick needs to be Samus Aran. 5'9", terrific ass. She has one of the best asses I've ever seen. I'm just going to praise her for that. This woman's amazing. I love her. I love it. I was a fan. Starbuck was awesome. She kicked ass. She was a badass. She had dramatic pathos. She had a deep backstory. There's a great episode with her called Scar, where she has this like war with another pilot, one of the Cylons, and she's much better than the original male character, making her a female but keeping her still like a guy who smokes and drinks and's a badass. It totally works, and the actress is awesome. And Starbuck's one of the best parts of Battlestar Galactica. Leela from Futurama. No, I forgot Starbuck's name right away. But yeah, Starbuck's amazing. Yeah, Starbuck should be Samus. I've thought that for years. That chick should be Samus. But yeah, there's tons of great females when you do it right. It just comes down to writing and stuff. And then nobody cares. Nobody cared really that Starbuck was a woman. When I watched Battlestar, we just loved it because she was a great character. She's one of the best characters on the show. So you love her. You love Giles Baltar because he's great. Oh my god, their Starbuck is like anime. That's fucking awesome. Hell yeah. No, Battlestar Galactica is like the best mech live-action adaptation ever. It's like every 80s mech space anime turned into a live-action show, except with actual deep philosophy and human characterization. It's wonderful. But, yeah, female leads have nothing against it. The president of Battlestar was a woman, but no male attitude. Yeah, she was great. The president yeah, Battlestar's a great example of female leads that were used very well. Surfacing gender imbalance with on-screen time and speaking time is just the beginning. We're interested in furthering our understanding of other variables in film, such as characters' dimensionality, profession, and age. Oh my god. The stories matter. It doesn't matter what their jobs are and stuff. Make the stories good. The hope is to raise awareness of the blind spots in the media and encourage storytellers to include a broader range of characters. It has been proven to us that data is the most incredibly powerful tool for uncovering unconscious bias and for uncovering people that it's there, and you can do something about it, says Davis. Well, I didn't really see it there. Your data didn't convince me, actually, at all. As unconscious gender bias begins to be recognized and addressed, the new character shaped by the understanding will undoubtedly impact the way everyone, men and women, perceive the roles women occupy in society. Okay, here's my problem with this to summarize this up. Basically, if there is a gender bias in an inequality films, I don't care. I don't care, and I don't think most people care. Most of these movies are generic blockbusters that have no deeper meaning or impact. Beauty and the Beast, Fate of Fierce, Guardians of the Galaxy, Logan, Kong. I love Logan, actually, but a lot of these films, they're not. There's nothing to them, really. So it wouldn't really matter. If Split was about a female kidnapping a bunch of boys, it wouldn't work because it would be hard to believe that a bunch of boys couldn't overpower a woman and take her down. But, you know, it's scary to see James McAvoy in this movie. He's great in it with these women, but the movie was a hit because people liked the premise, they liked M. Night, they liked what it looked like. James McAvoy's not a big box office draw. You know, Dark Knight does well because of Batman. It's not because it's a man playing Batman. It's because people already loved Batman. There's not a lot of female characters from the past. We don't have that many female heroes from comic books or literature and stuff, so it's tough to make a lot of stories. I mean, even look at these movies. King Arthur, Iron Man, that's what a lot of this stuff is. It was stuff that came from male properties. Pirates of the Caribbean, Jack Sparrow. But here Wonder Woman's coming out. That's going to be a huge hit. And the rest of these movies, it wouldn't really matter if they're Rough Night, that's females. Tom Cruise is in The Mummy with the female. I mean, I don't really see this inequality. It seems like male movie stars are just bigger, so they have to carry films like Brad Pitt and Johnny Depp and Robert Downey Jr. and Dwayne Johnson. There is big female actresses like Scarlett Johansson, but even she can have a bomb like Ghost in the Shell, even though Lucy was a big hit. So the projects matter. I don't think the casting matters, and I can't think of many films that influence people in the modern day to go do something. Films are so shallow anymore. And if we're talking television, Game of Thrones is the biggest show on TV, has a shitload of female characters. And same thing with Walking Dead. All the big shows on TV now have a shitload of female characters. Oh yeah, the Bechdel test or whatever, the Bechdel test, that test for feminism to see if there was enough. Yeah, I know that Mad Max Fury Road passed the test with flying colors. But this is my main. But when we look at the actual movies that made money, let's look at the highest-grossing films of all time. Okay, let's just look at the highest-grossing films of all time. Force Awakens domestically, female lead, but that had to do with Star Wars. Avatar, male lead, but with a female side lead just as strong. Had to do with James Cameron. Titanic, female lead. Jurassic World, male with a female right beside her, made money because of the dinosaurs. Avengers made money because of the Avengers. Dark Knight, Batman, Joker, Rogue One made money because it was Star Wars. Beauty and the Beast, animated IP adaptation. Finding Dory, Star Wars, Avengers again, Batman again. Shrek 2's a sequel. E.T. original film, did great. Predominantly had males in it, but that whatever. Hunger Games, woman. Pirates of the Caribbean, Lion King. I mean, where are all these films that women are in that are supposed to be in? What besides the Hunger Games? These are all films with male leads for the most part, and the ones that don't have male leads that did huge are properties like Star Wars or Jurassic Park. Well, even though Chris Pratt's the lead in that, but like, I'm not really seeing a convincing argument here. It doesn't seem like if the Lord of the Rings had female leads or Revenge of the Sith, the movies would have done any better. In fact, I would argue they would have done worse. The only female-led films here that really impress are The Hunger Games and Frozen. Everything else is dominated by men. And outside of Star Wars and Titanic, the other films are in Rogue One, which once again Star Wars. You have male, men. You know, and these films made a shit 760 mil domestic and stuff. I mean, also Force Awakens probably made its money because a little guy named Harrison Ford was in it. Another guy named Mark Hamill, and Carrie Fisher. I mean, did anyone go see it's like, oh my god, I can't wait to see Daisy Ridley in this movie. That's why it made almost $2.1 billion. Give me a fucking break. That's why Harrison Ford got $30 million, and Daisy Ridley probably didn't even get $1 million. So, let's see. They basically tried to look at it by numbers and stuff. I think it's skewed. I wasn't very convinced by this, actually looking at box office numbers. There's so many factors I think they're ignoring. The horror thing can be explained. The action thing was easily explained. The biography thing's easily explained. They may have a point here somewhat with the crime genre and drama. Maybe we could look into that. But, yeah, if you want to cast more women in movies, that's fine. I don't really care, but once again, I don't think that's going to make more women career. Like, okay, women took up archery when that was big that year. Are they still taking up archery? Are all these girls still archers? Are they still doing that? Are they still going out and shooting arrows and stuff like that? Like when people were into Lord of the Rings and Legolas? I doubt it. Or when the Avengers came out, Hawkeye, and people were into it. Also, that whole year was big with... But everyone seems to forget Avengers came out that year with Hawkeye, and that made way more money than Hunger Games and Brave. But let's just ignore that was just all in style this year. Yeah, 2012. Is this shit popular now? It's just a trend. Trends happen all the time. That's not a reflection of society necessarily. It's just a trend. Yeah, females, I know. Snatch did so well. Oh my god, Snatch made all that money. Yeah, Snatch. Let's look at Snatch. Let's look at the box office right now. These current films. Snatched. 19 million. Wow, what a huge hit. Wow, 24 mil worldwide so far. Terrific. Yeah, The Circle, Emma Watson's lead. That film's bombing, 18 million. Tom Hanks was in that film, too. Going in Style's a male film. Yeah, where are the female films here that are doing so well? I'm not seeing them. Ghost in the Shell was a big bomb. Pretty much Hidden Figures was the last female-led film to be a huge hit that I can find on here. Beauty and the Beast has a female lead, but I don't count that because, once again, that's a property. And Belle was an animated character, and people love Belle. They don't give a fuck who plays Belle. Emma Watson being cast is just marketing. The biggest film this year so far has been Guardians of the Galaxy, that's making money right now, at least, that's going on, and it's, you know, males. Dave Bautista, Bradley Cooper, Chris Pratt, and then, you know, Zoe Saldana. And there's that actress from Karen Gillan from Doctor Who's in it. But, yeah, still, it's pretty much a male movie, and nobody gives a shit. They went to go see it because they liked the characters from the first movie, and they liked the Marvel brand. Pretty simple. Overcomplicating, you seem to undervalue the shallowness of audiences. Audiences are barely shallow. They just go look at the pretty pictures and the special effects going on. That's why shit films like Transformers make so much money. That said, no woman has won Best Director. Catherine Bigelow won Best Director. Actually. Although, she was the first woman to win Best Director. But once again, women just aren't as interested in filmmaking. Shiwan had even brought this up once. She said she wanted to be a director of life. Then she tried to get into it and she realized she wasn't good at it. And you can just tell by watching Shiwan Head's videos and her content that she'd be fucking awful at directing. And Ryan's like, wow, you'd be one of the worst directors ever. And I hate to tell you, whenever I've been in film circles, you know, hanging out with film school students or making movies, this is anecdotal. Women were the worst at it. They were the worst they were so basic. And they didn't know anything about movies. I rarely met women who knew anything about movies in depth, like knew the history and were scholared as men. Not even close. I've never met the Tarantino, Martin Scorsese women. I've never met the passionate female. Never. And I've met so many. I mean, I've met hundreds of women. I've never met the ones just like... I've met some geeky girls that know comic books and stuff pretty well in Star Wars, but they'll never know Fellini like you, or Bergman, or Woody Allen films, or Krzysztof Kieślowski, or I mean, just going through, you know, Criterion Collection. I just rarely meet the women that are into that as much. It seems like men like movies more. It's like video games. It just seems like men like them more. And that's happened. You know, I hate to say it. It sounds so sexist, but I legitimately I've rarely met these women that know as much about movie as men or have the interest that men do. Because they just don't seem to care they don't seem to want to. I think women in a lot of fields are bad at being pragmatic. And as in that field, you have to be pragmatic. You have to be objective. And I think women they're not as inclined to be as objective as men are. Which isn't a bad thing. It's really not a bad thing. I just think it's not something women are as inclined toward being pragmatic as men. I think they're driven by emotions a little bit more, which makes some films really... I think Julie Taymor's a terrific visual director because of that. Because she has this emotional depth that she taps into. Now, Catherine Bigelow's very hardened and that way. She shoots like James Cameron. But, I mean, directing's a very physical job. There's a physicality to it. There's a seriousness to it. There's a harshness to it you have to have. And I just think it's more prime for men. That's why stand-up's predominantly men. You got to go up on a stage and say mean shit and make it funny. That's just something guys are more inclined to do than women. And I'm sorry, Amy Schumer and Sarah Silverman and all these other female comedians aren't fucking convincing me one iota that that's changing. Yeah, you know how many times I've been to the store and I've had to be held up by my girlfriend or a friend of mine's female looking at shoes? I know that. You have to be objective and pragmatic to be into art. No, to be a director specifically in art is one of the main jobs of being a director is to be pragmatic and objective. I'm talking about directing movies. I'm not talking about all arts in general. Director's job is to be pragmatic. That's the number one job of a director. Came in late-ish again. Most females don't seem too deep into movies. They enjoy or Disney movies. I am so sick of every girl I've ever dated and talk to, all they want to talk about is fucking Disney movies. I used to bitch about this with my friend. It's like, all they want to watch is Lion King, Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast, Little Mermaid. That's the only movies they know about. That's the only films you could talk in depth them about. Or Star Wars or something, or Lord of the Rings, or Harry Potter. They know Harry Potter. But as soon as you bring up, like, Die Hard, or Predator or something, it's a whole other conversation. Yes, I was speaking, yes, directors have to be pragmatic. Not all art forms are that way. If you're a director and you're on a movie set and you have to get shots and keep a story paced and float and stuff, yeah, being objective's like the number one job on a set. You have to be an asshole. Yeah, it's Jane Campion, Patty Jenkins, Catherine Hardwicke. I actually don't think Catherine Hardwicke's a very good director outside of one movie she made. Lynn Ramsey's pretty good. Well, women also like manga and anime. That's another thing they're into. Sofia Coppola... Lost in Translation's fantastic. Every other movie she made after that's dog shit. God, that movie she made is recently was so awful. Yeah, are you hot? Because that's what's really important. Oh, I'm super hot. There's a lot of female directors in television. One of the best directors on Breaking Bad's a woman. I think her name's like Michelle McLaren or something. She directed a lot of Game of Thrones episodes. I think she was actually up for Wonder Woman. But Wonder Woman's being directed by a female right now, and that's probably going to be a big hit. But look at Ghostbusters, right? Ghostbusters was a bomb. Had 4 female leads. It had nothing to do with sexism. It was a bad movie. It had bad marketing, and the studio fucked it up. Had this been a good movie with good characters and was hilarious as fuck, it probably wouldn't have been a big hit. Instead, it lost $70 million for the studio. And it had a big-name director who has had hit movies with females before, including Spy, The Heat, and Bridesmaids. So, why didn't these fail? Well, this failed because of the film it was. It didn't do better because females were in it. That's the logic this seems to be. It doesn't work. I'm shocked they didn't have a director. Well, Paul Feig basically is a woman, to be fair. I believe he doesn't actually have a penis. I'm under the theory that Paul Feig has a vagina. There are many female writers in it. Yeah, women just aren't as inclined to be directors. And what I was trying to say is that directing is a different job from a lot of those jobs. Like, to be a writer, you can have any process you want as a writer. Directing has these rules you kind of have to stay in. You have to tell people what the fuck to do. You have to be serious. You have to make decisions a lot. And I just don't think women like making a bunch of decisions over and over again. Like, as a director, you have to make 100 decisions. You have to give people answers all the time. And I think women are just more indecisive naturally when it comes to those jobs. And men, they go in there and they don't mind being the dick. That's why I think men are better bosses than women. A lot of female bosses I've had or have been around let their emotional bias get in the way of being a good boss, instead of looking at things like, well, you know what, this is actually the best decision to make as a boss. I know this sounds really sexist, but I truly believe this stuff. I think men are better in a lot of these leadership roles when you have to make very harsh decisions. I don't think women like to make tough decisions like that. I don't think women like to fire people like men do. We don't like to. We'll just do it. There's an emotional detachment. I can go to work and I'll think about my kids all day. I don't have kids, obviously. But that's how it feels. But Gina Davis, God, if anyone's been following Gina Davis the last year or so, like I said, it's just been insanity. She was crazy over this election, just fucking nuts. And it's but I guess there's not much more to add to this. I'm just ranting on at this point, you know. This was originally supposed to be a 20-minute video. We've always gone an hour. But man, the stream's got some activity. I like seeing you guys in here. I appreciate you guys watching. It means a lot to me. Thank you, actually. It means the world to me that you guys watch this. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys watch some other videos. Give me your opinion when this goes up in the comments and stuff like that. Make sure to like the video, and subscribe if you haven't been subscribed, if you haven't seen this after the live stream's up. And share this around and let people get the word out, because I have a feeling people are going to be sharing this technology, being like, look, here's my definitive proof of the sexism. And I think I made a pretty good argument here. Using basic logic, I defeated their points with skepticism. I think by using pretty basic logic, I showed how this is just kind of skewed as cherry-picked as fuck, and they're really not presenting it clearly. They're ignoring the fact of the property being Star Wars or something. And that's kind of stupid. I would say it depends on said women. I agree with you, Straight Sith Mile, except I once again would say on averages, no. I'd say on averages, no. I'd say, yeah, some women. But I say if we were going to match up men and women 100% and do that, I'd say for the most part men would be better at directing and stuff like that. I actually have, I actually would say that. But, you know, that's just my opinion. That's just my experiences in life and what I think. I could be wrong. Maybe the best directors in the world will be women someday. I don't fucking know. All that Nazi footage from the 40s, and I mean from the 30s and stuff was shot by a woman. Turns out Hitler was actually one of the first feminists in cinema. He let a woman direct movies when no one else would in Hollywood. So, let's think about that. Yeah, and make sure to go watch Haywire. Haywire is a good movie. Haywire is a very good movie and a very good female action film that's actually believable that a female action lead is in it. So this is the patriarchy, man. This is the patriarchy. We're kicking social justice ass. We're taking names. Gina Davis will not defeat us. Her irreverency in acting. I mean, when was the last time Gina Davis was famous? A Long Kiss Goodnight? I mean, man, it's been a long time since Gina Davis was relevant. She's a giant woman, though. She's like 6'2" or some shit. She's very intimidating. Very intimidating. It's so weird this came out, because I was just watching a Fly retrospective today. It's kind of weird. But I love you guys. I fucking love you guys. I love you guys. And until next time, go fuck yourselves. Here's a music outro from Sharkfoot, Suburban Sunrise. Go to Sharkfoot channel and listen to his music for more. And there'll be more videos coming in the future. Follow me on Twitter at @Vamian. And see you guys next time.